There is a glitch in the financial matrix. At this precise moment, a single asset exists at two completely irreconcilable price points. If you look at the screen in New York, you see one number, a comfortable, managed figure. But if you walk into a dealer in Dubai, Tokyo, or Shanghai, you are hit with a reality that is nearly double, sometimes triple that price. This is not a spread. This is not a markup. This is a fracture in the global financial system. We are witnessing the violent separation of paper promises from physical reality, and the gap is no longer closing. It is widening. If you do not understand why this is happening right now, you're standing on the wrong side of the greatest wealth transfer of our generation. The financial media will tell you that the market is functioning normally. They are lying. The mechanism that has governed precious metals pricing for 50 years is breaking down. We are seeing a phenomenon that should be impossible in an efficient market, a persistent, massive arbitrage opportunity that no trader can close. Why? Because to close the gap, you need physical metal, and the metal is gone. The vaults are hollow. The paper contracts are backed by nothing but air and algorithms. To understand the magnitude of this deception, you must look at the architecture of the Comex. This exchange does not trade silver, it trades the idea of silver. It trades digital contracts that claim to represent metal. But for every single ounce of physical silver sitting in a registered vault, there are hundreds of paper ounces claiming ownership of it. It is a game of musical chairs played with billions of dollars, and the music has just stopped. The leverage is absurd, a fractional reserve scheme that works only as long as investors remain complacent. But complacency has evaporated. In the first few weeks of the year, we witnessed a run on the bank, but not a cash bank, a metal bank. Tens of millions of ounces were physically withdrawn from exchange vaults in a matter of days. This wasn't standard turnover, this was an exodus. Over a quarter of the registered inventory vanished from the ledger, loaded onto armored trucks, and removed from the system. The market participants who actually need the metal of the industries, the sovereign nations, have stopped trusting the paper price. They are demanding delivery, and they are discovering that the cupboard is nearly bare. The distinction between registered and eligible inventory is the smoke and mirror trick used to calm the public. They point to millions of ounces in the vaults and say, "Look, there is plenty of supply." But they fail to mention that the vast majority of that metal is not for sale. It is owned by entities who have no intention of letting it go at current prices. The actual free float, the metal available for immediate delivery, has shrunk to a terrifyingly low level. We are running a global deficit where consumption outstrips supply by hundreds of millions of ounces annually, and we're filling that gap by draining reserves that are now critically low. This creates a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. While the West plays games with derivatives, the East has changed the rules of engagement. A quiet but aggressive shift has occurred in global trade policy. The nations that refine and process the majority of the world's silver have reclassified it. It is no longer just a commodity to be traded for dollars, it is a strategic asset, critical for national defense and high technology dominance. Export quotas are tightening. The flow of metal that used to move freely from east to west is being choked off. The domestic premiums in Asian markets tell the story better than any analyst could. Buyers in Shanghai and Tokyo are paying massive premiums over the Western spot price. They are not stupid. They are desperate. They are securing inventory because they see the writing on the wall. They understand that when the supply chain snaps, the paper price in New York will be irrelevant. The only price that will matter is what you must pay to get the metal in your hand, and right now, that price is skyrocketing. This bifurcation has turned the delivery reports of major banks into a battlefield. We are seeing entities that were historically short betting against the price suddenly flipping their positions. They are standing for delivery, absorbing massive amounts of physical inventory. When the very banks that rigged the casino start cashing out their chips and buying the asset they suppressed, you know the game is over. They are front-running the inevitable collapse of their own paper scheme. They know that the short positions held by some of their competitors are mathematically impossible to cover without bankrupting the system. Consider the sheer scale of the short positions held by certain financial institutions. We are talking about paper bets that exceed the entire annual global production of silver multiple times over. There's simply not enough metal in the Earth's crust, let alone in the vaults, to settle these contracts if the holders demand delivery. This is why the system fights so hard to keep the price managed. A true price discovery event would not just cause a rally, it would cause a solvency crisis for the banking sector. The emergency liquidity injections we see occurring in the shadows are the tremors before the earthquake. But the pressure is not just coming from investors, it is coming from the laws of physics and industry. Silver is not just money. It is the most conductive metal known to man. It is the lifeblood of the modern economy. You cannot build a solar panel, an electric vehicle, a 5G tower, or a cruise missile without it. The demand from these sectors is inelastic. A defense contractor building a guidance system does not care if silver is $30 or $30 or $300. They must have it. The green energy transition is literally built on silver paste. This industrial consumption is the ultimate price floor. Unlike gold, which is hoarded in vaults, industrial silver is consumed. It is used in tiny quantities in billions of devices and often ends up in landfills, lost forever. We are burning the candle at both ends, increasing consumption, while depleting the above-ground stockpiles, and the mining supply cannot react. You cannot just flip a switch and produce more silver. Most of it is a byproduct of other mining operations. Even if the price tripled tomorrow, it would take a decade to bring significant new supply online. We are locked into a structural deficit. The lease rates for silver have been flashing red warning signs. When the cost to borrow physical metal spikes, it indicates extreme tightness in the wholesale market. We have seen rates jump to levels that imply panic behind the scenes. Furthermore, we have seen backwardation, a rare anomaly where the spot price is higher than the future price. This signals that the market values immediate possession far more than a future promise. It is the market screaming, "I don't trust you to deliver later. Give it to me now." The opacity of the London market adds another layer of risk. While eyes are fixed on New York, the London vaults are a black box of unverified data and rehypothecated assets. The same ounce of silver might be used as collateral for multiple loans, creating a chain of counterparty risk that binds the entire global financial system. When metal has to be emergency shipped across the Atlantic to meet delivery demands, it reveals just how thin the buffer really is. The liquidity is an illusion. Even the miners are trapped. Despite rising demand, production is stagnant. Rising energy costs, labor shortages, and regulatory hurdles have squeezed margins. Moreover, many producers sold their future production at lower prices to secure financing, meaning they don't even benefit immediately from price spikes. They are digging as fast as they can, but the ore grades are falling. We are working harder to find less. This brings us to the ultimate ratio, gold to silver. Historically, these two metals move in a rhythm, but the current ratio is stretched to extremes that suggest a violent snapback is imminent. If silver were to simply revert to its historical average relative to gold, the price would need to multiply several times over. If it overshoots, as it often does in a crisis, the repricing would be legendary. We are looking at an asset that is statistically the most undervalued opportunity in the commodity complex. Central banks are quietly acknowledging this reality. While they publicly discuss gold, the stealth accumulation of strategic silver reserves is underway. Nations are realizing that in a digital, electrified world, silver is not just a monetary metal, it is a strategic material of war and industry. To run out of silver is to deindustrialize. No government will allow that to happen without a fight. The retail market is the canary in the coal mine. In India, the appetite for silver has become insatiable. We are seeing imports hit record levels as the population moves to secure wealth outside the fiat system. This is not speculative trading. This is cultural accumulation. When billions of people decide to protect their purchasing power with the same limited asset, the supply shock becomes exponential. So, what is the end game? We have a paper market that is leveraged to the hilt, facing an industrial complex that cannot function without the physical metal. We have a geopolitical split where the East is hoarding inventory and the West is drowning in derivatives. The divergence we see today, the $100 spread between reality and the screen, is the tension before the snap. The paper price will eventually have to confront reality. Either the exchange declares force majeure and settles in cash, admitting the metal isn't there, or the price resets vertically to clear the market. In either scenario, the holder of the paper contract loses. The holder of the physical metal wins. It is a binary outcome. This is not about day trading. This is about positioning yourself before the music stops completely. The premiums you pay today are the cost of insurance against a system that has promised more than it can deliver. When the history of this financial era is written, the decoupling of silver will be seen as the moment the fiat illusion finally broke. The window to acquire physical assets at these suppressed valuations is closing. The glitch in the matrix will be corrected, and the correction will be violent.